We are at Zenith for the 50th anniversary of the El Primero caliber, and you are looking at the 50 years of El Primero anniversary collection. It is made up to resemble a watchmaker's bench. It is a self-contained casket featuring a drawer for 3 generations of El Primero. You have the past, the present, and the future. You also have a full watchmaker's loop, strap tool, watchmaking bench, portable light, and a separate slot for the future of the El Primero, to be continued. This is 50 years of the El Primero, 50 pieces to be made in celebration of 5 decades of the world's most famous chronograph caliber. Hi, this is Tim at Watches and Wonders with Zenith for the 50th anniversary of the Zenith El Primero. We're talking 3 Zenith watches representing each period of Zenith history, the past, the present, and the future. We're starting with a faithful tribute to the 1969 A386. Now, of course, the El Primero, announced in January 1969, was the first announced integrated automatic chronograph, undoubtedly and unarguably the first integrated automatic high-beat chronograph, and this watch in 38 millimeters is a faithful tribute to an example of an original A386 from the Zenith Museum. The watch was laser scanned so that all of the details, right down to the thickness of the bevels and the height of the hands above the dial, were reproduced meticulously. Now, the timepiece does contain a modern Zenith El Primero caliber, but you can see the dial is faithful in both color and details, depth, tone, texture. Turning it all over, you can see the vintage style pump pushers. You will note it's a modern Zenith El Primero caliber 400 on the back. 1969 to 2019. We're talking 50 years of the El Primero, and this is where it started. Now, the timepiece takes a quantum leap into what you might describe as the present. This is the current day Chronomaster 1/10 of a second. The El Primero, of course, now 42 millimeters with a combination of stainless steel and ceramic bezel. You can see this is a prototype, so I'm not going to operate it, but the final example will feature the complication that was known as striking 10th when it bowed back in 2010. A foudroyant 1 10-second circuit of the dial, allowing you to read more easily 1/10 of a second, the hallmark of the El Primero, which beats 10 times per second. Now you can see a spectacular sunburst silver dial with the tritone registers overlapping. Turn it all over. What will be in the final version of this watch will be the El Primero caliber 3600. What's changed? Well, let's start with the basics. More power reserve. You have 60 hours rather than the previous 50 to 52. Let's talk about hacking seconds. The traditional El Primero does not have it. The caliber 3600 will have it. And of course, you can see this watch 100 meters water resistant, a full service sports watch. It will also include the striking 10th complication and the traditional high beat El Primero 1/10 of a second chronograph rate. Let's take one more jump. Now we're discussing the Defy El Primero 21, 44 millimeters, but now in titanium rather than steel. You can see the watch features a sensational 1/100th of a second foudroyant. Now, the dial of the Defy El Primero 21 has been somewhat remodeled to pay tribute to the past, and you can see the clear resemblance to 1969. What you also have is a power reserve for a unique twin barrel movement, effectively 2 calibers in one case. You can see just above the 60-second register, there is a high rate escapement. That's your 1/100th of a second, 360,000 vibration per hour escapement. Just below that, the standard El Primero, 36,000 vibrations per hour. You can only wind the foudroyant manually, but you do have an automatic winding system for the 50-hour power reserve. It's 50 minutes for the chronograph, but the 50-hour power reserve is wound by a unidirectional winding system compared to the traditional El Primero bidirectional. You'll also appreciate the fact that this watch features a silicon escapement for the regular 10 beat per second escapement and a COSC chronometer certification. This goes by the name caliber 9004. On top of everything else, it is a COSC chronometer. 100 meters water resistant. This watch, like the other 2, will be part of a 3-piece set with a remarkably deluxe boxed package. 50 years of the El Primero. We've gone through the past, the present, and now we look toward the future. How far into the future? Well, a little bird told me that a 1/1000th of a second chronograph is on its way. 50 years of the El Primero at Watches and Wonders 2019. Did you miss me? Well, in fact, I did. I didn't get to see the Zenith and LVMH exhibitions in Geneva during SIHH, but this is the new hotness at Zenith, launched during Geneva Week. It's the Defy Blue Ceramic, so it's still 41 millimeters, still 100 meters water resistant, and still powered by the Zenith Elite caliber 670 SK. Now, however, with an incredible blue ceramic case, much like you'll see on the Hublot Big Bang Unico blue ceramic. It has both satin and polished facets. The finishing of this case, up to 1800 Vickers, so rock hard and scratch resistant, but finished with the same detail and virtuosity you'd expect in a basic Zenith Defy. Now the dial is extraordinary. You can see the base plate of the caliber 670 SK as well as the silicon escapement operating just below the dial. Now you can see it to really good effect, that iridescent purple. The timepiece with a 50 to 52 hour power reserve automatic winding also includes a bi-directional quick set for the date. You can actually set it in either direction, which I find to be particularly brilliant. Turn it all over and it's just as intriguing on the case back. All grayscale with the techno-industrial aesthetic. This is the Elite, designed in 1994 and still 25 years young at Zenith, 50 years the El Primero, 25 years the Elite this year at Zenith. This is an all-around sports watch and a wonderfully comfortable piece that is feather light on the wrist. This is the Zenith Defy Blue Ceramic at Watches and Wonders 2019. Hi, this is Tim at Watches and Wonders 2019. We are with Zenith. Well, if you've wondered what the Zenith Defy Zero G looks like in person, here it is. You can see 44 millimeters in grade 5 titanium, an extraordinarily light and airy watch in spite of its size. This watch is all about a gimbaled escapement. Now, this has been imprecisely called a tourbillon. It is not a tourbillon. The watch has taken a bit of a knock. It is a prototype, but Zenith has kindly allowed me to demonstrate this piece in person. As you can see, it's taken a hit, but it's still ticking. A licking and ticking, that is a gimbal right there. The watch, effectively a modern day wrist-borne version of what you might have seen on a shipboard marine chronometer during the 19th century. It is not a tourbillon, it is an escapement that maintains a constant orientation with respect to gravity. Now, this particular piece has been beaten to death by the press corps and enthusiasts here at the show, but you get a general sense of just how extraordinary this caliber 8812 is. It maintains one orientation, which in many respects is superior to what a tourbillon will do, because a tourbillon typically will only rotate on one axis. This watch is always effectively in one position, and thus it can be rated and regulated in one position by the watchmaker. There is a power reserve for the 50-hour reserve de marche. The watch is manually wound. It is a high-beat El Primero style escapement, so 10 beats per second, 36,000 per hour. You can see the movement from the case back, wonderfully open and visible. The timepiece, remarkably architectural in its form, very much like a machine brought from the inside out. If you love movements, you're going to love this watch. A timepiece that you can absolutely swim with and at the same time wear to the opera. It's a bit extravagant, but then again, its watchmaking bona fides are unquestioned. This is the Zenith Defy Zero G. I'm going to get real close. At Watches and Wonders 2019.